Slania Corvids, I am Corvus Bruxo and welcome again to my channel. Today I would like to address something that affects both my religious, orthodox, spiritual life and my magical practices. So today I would like to address something really serious. Maybe I will lose some subscribers, but it's time to talk about the lies of modern shamanism. Modern shamanism is a scam. It's something deceitful. It's intended and carefully created and organized to make people feel special. It really pisses me off because it's deceitful, it's disrespectful, it's a massive amount of cultural appropriation in the bad sense. I'm the type of person that don't believe in cultural appropriation, but in this case there's a willingly and conscious stealing of traditions and distortion so they wouldn't be recognized when they're in the original form and context. It's brutal and I totally despise it. So let's start by defining what's shamanism. First that you need to know is that shamanism doesn't exist. It's a coined term in the anthropological community. Fortunately, in the last and serious anthropologists and other experts are dismissing the Mircean model because it's harmful and it's shit. I'm sorry, it's shit. I know Mircea Eliade still has lots of followers. It's like Carlos Castaneda, even after discovering he's wrong or simply made up things, people keep following them and justifying their flaws and their mistakes and their scams. Because in the case of Carlos Castaneda, is a total scam demonstrated, but people keep following him, so whatsoever. The term shaman comes from the Evenki language Shaman. Probably I mispronounced that, and apparently, well, most experts believe it can come from Tungusic root sa, which is to know. So Shaman would be he who knows, a wise person, a wise man. It comes from the Siberian context. Well, that's the main theory going around. There are a bunch of other theories, including the one of Mircea Eliade himself, which was already dismissed several times. So how does the term shamanism start to be used? Because of Mircea Eliade, which to me is one of the worst wrongdoers to animism. Mircea Eliade is someone who studied this figure and he basically distorted everything and was very condescending to the cultures, believing they were inferior, that they were not as evolved as other civilizations and religions. When Mircea Eliade starts to study this figure and to publish his conclusions, which became very popular, and that was a problem. His model is very problematic, is false in many instances, and well, the first problem is that the Mircean model presents the shaman as the same as any other spiritual specialist in these types of religion. Like they're all the same. It doesn't matter the mythology, it doesn't matter the tradition, it doesn't matter the cultural context, it doesn't matter the historical context. Nothing matters. It matters that they fucking enter trance, so they're shamans. That's the first lie of modern shamanism. And I use the term shaman and shamanism for the sake of understanding and to describe, I guess, kind of common cultural phenomenon, but shamanism itself doesn't exist. Get that into your heads. Second problem is that the Mircea model insists in separating the priest from the shaman, insists in that the shaman isn't a religious figure and he or she doesn't have religious duties. It insists that the only thing that makes a shaman is the ability to contact the spirit world by trance. It's this sort of mentality of Rome against the barbarians. It's the same. He believes there's this civilized world with priests and organized religion and animism that I don't know, I can't remember if he refers to it as animism, with the figure of the shaman, which is only a spiritual specialist whose techniques focus on entering trance and contacting spirits. It is worth mentioning that according to the Golomb Center for Shamanic Studies, a Mongolian group of shamans, of living shamans, they say that the most appropriate translation for shaman should be priest, regardless of the etymology, because etymology doesn't always describe the current meaning of a word. So the problem with the Mircean model is that it became so popular that even other experts started to study shamanism using it as a basis, and it was stupid that for more than a decade shamans got together, tried to explain to Western experts their self-perception, which is one of the biggest problems in anthropology, is that we aren't sure how the tribes, the people, the groups of humans that are studied historically, how they perceived themselves and their beliefs and their creed. And you have the opportunity to do that. You have shamans telling you how they live their culture, their practices and their beliefs, their experience, and you're fucking ignoring them. You're like, no, we have this model and it's universal, so we're telling you what you actually are. So it's not what you're telling me, it's this. Come on, guys, it's fucking stupid. So for decades this actually happened, and happened a lot. Nowadays it's coming to an end and people are studying shamanism in their own cultural environment, their own moment in time, individuals, tribes, etc. Things are coming to make amends at last. According to the English historian Ronald Haddon, you know him, don't you? He says that there's 4 main currents of defining shamanism or the shaman. First is anybody who contacts a world of spirits in an altered state of consciousness. Second is anybody who contacts a world of spirits in an altered state of consciousness in instance of a third party, so at the behest of others. A figure who contacts the world of spirits with certain techniques, making it different to other magical and religious specialists such as witch doctors, fairy doctors, prophets, mediums, druids, witches, warlocks, etc. But it isn't, there's no agreement on which techniques or which traits the shamans have that is different to these other specialists, because the trance technique is very common in some of these ones, and the use of psychoactive substances is another trait that they share with other people, with other specialists. And the last form is the native religions of Siberia and surrounding areas in Asia. So yes, I despise the Mersenne model. It's disrespectful. It doesn't really study the phenomenon of shamanism, the perception of the shamans themselves about themselves and their traditions and the gods, spirits, whatever. It is completely ignored just to say it is a bunch of trance techniques. It's not serious anthropology, it's not serious study, it's not serious research, it's not serious at all. So the Mersenne model is being more and more dismissed by modern anthropologists and other experts, which is something good, but we still have a lot of work to do because people keep believing it like it was the 10 commandments of shamanism and anthropology. But the Mersenne model also triggered a huge interest in the regular spiritual seeker, and in Western countries shamanism became a huge thing that was easily marketed, and it created an abomination of falsehood, distortion, massive cultural appropriation, massive abuse of native herbs. Guys, don't abuse herbs and products that aren't native to your land. I mean, I won't say don't try it. I would try if I had the opportunity. But the ayahuasca, the peyote, the crops are going to hell because of the massive amount of people going there to have a shamanic experience. Don't fuck with people. Support native groups, support native beliefs. Don't fuck them up in your own selfish interest. So this massively marketed shamanism has different traits that are very highlighted in order to attract an audience, to attract customers. And I would like to quickly address these traits. So the first trait is the insistence on individuality. This kind of shamanism insists that the shaman is just a bunch of trance techniques, so anybody mastering these techniques would be allowed to be called shamans. That's completely false. If you study even in the times of Musalia, the figures were people accepted by their community, supported by their community, and serving a community. Even if you don't believe it is a religious figure, which it is, get that into your head too. It is completely insulting to say a shaman is a bunch of trance techniques, because a shaman also, depending on the tribe, the culture, etc., they are required a certain amount of other skills that can vary from forging metal, being able to sing, to paint, to dance, storytelling, an amount of skills that the self-proclaimed shaman doesn't have. The shamans also perform rites of passage. The shaman also perform shamanistic rites that are organic, that are in contact with spirits, but for the community. For example, to ensure that the crops will be fertile, etc. So I'm sorry, friend, you're maybe an amazing trance performer, but you're not a shaman. I'm not saying that in a disrespectful manner. It's just a matter of proper language. So the other trait is totemism. And basically a totem is defined by the marketed shamanism as a animal guide or animal spirit, which is pretty inaccurate. Totem would be defined as an object, spirit, animal, fetish, or other that is representative, emblematic, protective, and mythological ancestor of a community or human group. That's if we don't focus on the original term, which is Native American and refers to wooden constructions. But even in the more extensive definition, this neo-totem that the New Age sells isn't accurate. Totems may represent individuals, but only if they fulfill a role in the tribe or the family, or by doing heroic and mythological legendary deeds that you're not able to do. So insisting that it can represent individuals to supply something or to compensate for a weakness, it's completely inaccurate. And I'm not even entering those who intertwine the totem and interchange it or exchange it with other concepts such as the familiar spirits, fetch, the daimon or daimon. Another common thing is that the cultures where this shamanism is supposed to come is always exotic, mostly living traditions in which you need to participate in order to receive the complete knowledge and wisdom about it. It's always something that the author will tell you they received hermetic knowledge and they're now sharing. But you can never check, because you have to participate in the tradition to be able to check it, and you're obviously not participating in the tradition. If not, you wouldn't be reading those books to feel part of that community without being part of it. And it's not right, it's bad for them, it's bad for you, and it's only good for the author. One other trait is to water down things so the Western believer or spiritual seeker will feel comfortable with the thing. So shamans contact the spirit world in order to acquire wisdom, to know how to heal something, an illness or an ailment from somebody in his or her community. But that's not believable to our Western mindset that is very scientific. So you change that for New Age matters that you don't need to experience, but makes you feel special and gifted when you basically aren't. These New Age things are taken from Oriental philosophies, which again they aren't fully understood, and it's like a grotesque serpent biting its own tail. So yeah, it's things like not entering a trance to cure an ailment that you suffer from. You enter trance to improve your karmic soul. Wow! Things of that nature. And last but not least, psychotropic substances or entheogens or hallucinogens. They are a basic element in shamanism of most of the cultures that are considered animistic or shamanic. In order to achieve an altered state of consciousness, there are various techniques, and one of the most popular ones is the use of entheogens. Because of the animistic beliefs, there are much more to the use of entheogens than just the achievement of the trance. These animistic beliefs will tell you traditionally that that plant, that herb, that fruit, that whatsoever that you're consuming has a spirit within it, or a soul, or an intelligence, whatever, a spirit within it, linked to it, or it is a sentient and intelligent being by itself. Consuming the plant would be customary folk methodology to interact with the spirit beyond the trance itself. And I don't know if I'm explaining properly. Let me think. To consume these substances wasn't only for the trance. Sometimes it's not even for the trance at all. It's to channel the spirit, it's to interact with the spirit. It's a norm of politeness, it's a protocol, it's a way to achieve the contact, not the trance itself. Not you achieve the trance and then you achieve the contact. It's you achieve the contact and hence you have the trance. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but what I'm trying to say is that many of these people, in their own experience, they're fulfilling or behaving in protocol, not to achieve a trance. Actually, entheogen is a term coined from two Greek roots, and it means basically inspired by a god inside. Is it clear that it wasn't only to achieve the trance? Yeah, then we move on to what I want to explain. And it is that the use of entheogens has been completely not only dismissed, but criticized, complained about, insulted about by these marketed shamanism authors. And I'm not one telling you that you should use drugs at all if you don't feel like using them, if you don't like using them, if you have health issues and you shouldn't use them, don't use them. It's perfectly fine. There are other techniques. But to dismiss and insult those telling them that if they're not able to achieve trance without drugs, they're not good shamans, they're only junkies looking for an excuse to have another high. Why? Okay, I don't use drugs, but telling those who use drugs, either shamans, witches with the flying ointment, telling them that they're doing it wrong, that they're not true shamans, true witches, true warlocks, fairy doctors, witch doctors, because they're not using something that is traditional and protocol interaction with spirits beyond the scientific explanation of the trance, that they're not good at their work. Why? If someone would not be good at their craft, would be the non-user, not the user. The user is tradition, is custom, is protocol, is using something proven to be effective. All of that is what the user has to their favor. You have a dismissal that is not historical, it's not traditional, it's not customary, it's not mythological, and it's right to not use it, but don't dismiss the others, don't be a fucking dick. So that attitude is completely repulsive. It is disgusting to do that. It is, I don't even have words. They're not damaging you. It's not like it's a tradition and we're talking about black slavery. It's not like that. You're owner of your own body. You have the ability and the right to put in your own body whatever you want if you know the risks. So in conclusion, you're not a shaman if you're a solitary practitioner at home. I don't say it as an insult. There are more proper terms to define what you do, which are perfectly fine as well. Also with this, I'm not saying that shamanism isn't a huge part and influence in a number of religious traditions and magical traditions as well. It's a huge influence, but you can't call anything that is trans influenced or trans based shamanism. That's improper, inaccurate. So yeah, I don't want to keep talking. I think this is long enough, and but it needed to be addressed. It needed to be talked about. I hope I didn't offend way too many people, and those that I offended, I hope they're the right people to be offended, as I did, because I believed in shamanism in the Mircean way, and I had to accept that I was mistaken, and I had to start researching again. So I know I have been very visceral, but this is a topic that touches me quite closely for various reasons, and it pisses me off how it is being disrespected, distorted, lost, stolen, and basically messed up a lot, and heading towards extinction because of the market. Sorry if I offended somebody, but I needed to clear up things about shamanism, why I don't consider myself a shaman. Now tell me what you think in the comments down below. Like if you liked the video, dislike if not, and if you want to keep discussing about paganism and witchcraft and magic and the occult, subscribe to keep updated. I remind you that I accept requests, so if there's something in particular you want to know about, or that you want me to address or give my opinion about, or tell you how I perceive it, please PM me or leave it in the comments. I know I haven't been quite respectful, but that's why I apologized. So after apologizing, I ask you please to be respectful in the comments if you disagree, and to have a healthy discussion. I know I should have done that, so I apologize again. Thanks for watching, Corvids. You're wonderful. May the gods and spirits watch over you all, and Slania.